This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is an independent England football supporters podcast. I hope I find you well. I'm quite sure you know the result of the game by now and I'll come to it very soon. And once again I'll be joined by the Evening Standard's Dom Smith and also I'm pleased to say I'm joined once again by David Gorton, who has travelled back out to Australia to see the game. His report is still to come. But first, just bear with me. I want to run you through a little timeline. I'm sure you're aware that our FA banned women's football back in 1921 and only allowed it to be played again 50 years later in 1971. Now, a year later, England women played their first international match away to Scotland. A match they won 3-2. A match, actually, I'd done a special episode on last year. You can find it on your podcast provider of choice. It's episode 233. It's called 50 Years On, the story of England women's first game. From that, the game stumbled around for some time, with the likes of Southampton women and Doncaster Belles winning, and then along came Arsenal ladies to sweep up everything before them. And then we came to 2010, when the Women's Super League was born, to what we know now. But on the international front, the England women's team had mixed results at the World Cup for when they qualified. Incidentally, the World Cup for women had only been introduced by FIFA in 1991. Now, in 1995, we qualified for it for the first time. We were out in the quarter-finals to Germany. We only qualified again for the World Cup in 2007. Again, we went out in the quarter-finals to the USA. 4 years later, 2011, once again, it was the quarter-finals, out to France, this time on penalties. 2015, we made a step further. We got to the semi-finals where Japan put us out. And 2019, out in the semi-finals once again to the US of A. Then, on the 14th of August, 2020, this happened.
Hi everyone, hope you're all well. This is Sarina Wiegman from Holland. I've been the Dutch national team coach for the last 4 years. I'm really excited and looking forward to become the head coach of the England national team in 2021. Good luck for the upcoming 12 months. Stay safe, thanks for your support and see you soon.
Little did we know what was going to happen next. 2022, a massive year for the Lionesses. Victory in the European Championships over Germany, victory in the Finalissima over Brazil. And I mention these as I think it really shows how far we've come, to put it all into perspective, and to maybe not be too disheartened. Now, I confess I didn't think I'd be doing a podcast episode this far into the tournament, as I think I said some way back, without Beth Mead, Leah Williamson, Fran Kirby, I thought our chances were hampered somewhat, quarter-finals at best. And as the tournament began, it was hard work against Haiti and Denmark, terrible performance against Nigeria. I thought I'd be proved right. Not that I didn't have the confidence in those that would replace them, but more, could they gel as a team together? But lo and behold, they did. And I guess that's what tournament football, in a nutshell, is all about. Get through your group, then win the knockouts by hook or by crook, beating Colombia and then Australia. So Spain in the final, I knew it was going to be tough. And I thought we might have the upper hand going into the game, but not by much. And before the match, I looked back at some patterns that had occurred in the games over the years. Not that it means a great deal, but on 5 previous occasions, the World Cup winners have been those that had already won their continental trophy. So this was where my hopes kind of lie. In 1991, the Gold Cup, as it was known back then, the USA were the winners. A few months later, in 1991, the USA won the World Cup. 2001, the European champions were Germany. 2003, the World Cup winners were Germany. 2005, the Germans retained their European championships, and in 2007, the Germans retained the World Cup. In 2014, the USA won the CONCACAF tournament, which is what the Gold Cup was now known as. A year later, they won the World Cup. And just as Germany had done in 2001, 2003, and 2005, 2007, the USA won the CONCACAF Cup in 2018 and were the most recent winners of the World Cup in 2019. You know where I'm going with this. 2022, England, European champions. So I was hoping, along with the rest of the country, that 2023 would be our year. But the World Cup winners are Spain, and congratulations to them. Now let's welcome back the Evening Standard's Dom Smith. Hello, Dom.
Hello there.
Hi there. That champagne I mentioned on the last episode, we're just going to have to put it back on ice, aren't we? It just wasn't our night or our morning, depending on the time you watched it.
No, it was a final where we didn't really ever get into the match, did we? Spain were dominating possession right from the beginning of the game, and they saw that out all the way through it. I don't think England really were able to get into it and find any rhythm, keep much of the ball. You know, and in the end, I think the right team won.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think it's a case of we played badly. I think, as you say, Spain just dominated the possession and done what they can do with it, and we just ultimately couldn't break them down. Let's just quickly mention the team. It was the same starting 11 that Serena Weichmann has picked for the last 2 games, which was Mary Earps, Jess Carter, Millie Bright, Alex Greenwood, Lucy Bronze, Kira Walsh, Georgia Stanway, Rachel Daly, Ella Toone, Lauren Hemp and Alessia Russo. They were the starting 11 that we hoped would take us to glory. But as you say, Spain put on the early pressure in the game. And yeah, I kind of made a note to say it was fairly evenly matched between the two, but Spain just had that edge, didn't they?
They did, yeah. They were able to keep the ball better, as we've already said, and they created more chances as well. It felt like they had a chance about every 5 or 10 minutes, which England can't claim to have conjured up. Yeah, England had their opportunities. They obviously hit the crossbar pretty early on.
It was a good effort, that, wasn't it, Lauren Hemp?
It was a good effort, but in these finals or these big matches, you know, if you get a chance that good early on, maybe you assume that you're going to get loads more. But you know, I think we've seen enough of these big matches to know that you're probably unlikely to have more than 15 efforts of any type, whether they're from distance or speculative or scraped from a corner or something. So yeah, you've got to take them. I know it was a good effort from Lauren Hemp, but I wasn't expecting to have England to have too many brilliant opportunities beyond that, and they didn't, did they? But Spain, on the other hand, did. They had, as well as the penalty, of course, they had so many chances from open play, and Mary Earps played a blinder, to be honest, to keep it to one goal. I don't think England deserved to lose by more than a goal, but on the chances that Spain created, it could easily have been so.
Yeah, she had a great game in the saves that she made. Well, let's talk about the goal. Lucy Bronze caught out of position, basically dispossessed in the around the centre circle, wasn't it? On around 26, 27 minutes. Ball ended up at Carbonara as she's bearing down on goal from an angle. Alessia Russo couldn't catch her, and she strike it across Mary Earps, didn't she, into that far corner to make it 1-0 and ultimately the only goal of the game.
Absolutely. It was a lovely ball across field from Teresa Abellera, which kind of created the chance, and then Caldente played it along to Carmona, who, as a left back, finished superbly. To be fair, right into the corner, whistled past Earps, and Spain had a moment. And you just wondered in that instance, was this a don't worry, England will turn back, or was this a here we go? This could be. This could be a night that just isn't England's. And in the end, it unfortunately ended up being the latter. England never really quite got into it, had a few chances. But, yeah, Spain kept creating, kept the ball, defended well, and, definitely deserved it.
Yeah. There was a lot made on the TV. I don't know what channel you were watching. I was watching the BBC. Kind of stuck in that sort of tradition. Whenever there's a game that's being shown on both channels, I'll always pump for BBC. It's just a personal preference of mine. But they were talking about Lucy Bronze, that she'll be so disappointed. I mean, obviously for the goal that happened, but as well, just this was her dream, wasn't it? She's wanted this one for so long. Straight after the Euros last year, she knew the bigger picture as well was to strike forward for this World Cup. And I off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure how old she is, but I don't know if she's going to get another shot at a World Cup.
No, I mean, she's 31, so she would only be 35 at the next World Cup, so it is possible. But of course, the other question becomes: Are you still first choice at that time?
Yeah.
And is Serena Wiegmann, the best manager in the world, still in charge? So there are lots of questions. This was definitely England's best chance of winning a World Cup. It wasn't a tournament that had gone all their way. They'd lost players to injury before the tournament. They lost a player during the tournament to a suspension. They had to go to a penalty shootout. They'd gone behind in a couple of games, or at least one, I think. So, England didn't have it all their own way, but it's easy to forget that Spain didn't either. I think Spain are still missing about 12 of their players. I think if England were missing 12 of their players, I don't think we'd be in the final. It's absolutely incredible, the strength in depth that their team has. And okay, of the 12 that kind of stepped away from the international setup last August, who still haven't come back, because it was 15 overall, but 3 came back. Of the 12 who still haven't, maybe only 3 of them would get into the starting lineup, but that's still an awful lot of quality to be missing. So to be winning the World Cup is real credit to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, congratulations to them for everything you said there, the way they've gone about it. And to come away in the last game and win it and take that trophy home, congratulations to them. But the second half, back to the game, we made a few changes. Alessia Russo was replaced by Lauren James, who I think we spoke on the last episode where we kind of thought that she would come off the bench, but like Alessia Russo, didn't really have that sort of cutting edge to change the game in England's favour. Chloe Kelly also came on for Rachel Daly. It was a change of formation, which was, I guess, Serena Weigmann's last throw of the dice for that half.
Yeah, I wondered whether maybe the right decision was to... I mean, when I say this, I wondered before the match. I'm not going to sit here and say that I was wondering this after, because hindsight helps no one. But no. I wondered whether maybe the right decision was Lauren James, because as you mentioned in the last episode, it's Ella Toone who's got a proven track record of being an impressive substitute, and Lauren James hasn't quite shown that yet. But also, I think against Spain, that's a team who keep the ball better than anyone else in world football. So you need players who can receive the ball, turn and keep it and distribute it to teammates. And although Ella Toone is the more experienced England international and maybe the more intelligent player off the ball, I would say she's more easily dispossessed than Lauren James, and that Lauren James is better and actually had to show this in this match because of how well Spain pressed it. When Lauren James had the ball, she was well in her own half, and she was often receiving it from a defender facing her own goal, but she turned well. She got out of trouble, and I just wondered whether it might have been a little bit more sensible for England to have started with her. But I understand why Sarina Wiegman didn't, because she had shown naivety against Nigeria, and Ella Toone had come into her own a little bit in this tournament. So, these are fine margins. And to be honest, I don't think that would have been the difference in terms of the result. I don't think starting Lauren James over Ella Toone was going to change the result of this match. Just like I don't think England probably wouldn't have won this final even if they'd kept their two strikers or their two players who can play up front, Daly and Russo, on at halftime. This was just a case of by my reckoning, the second best team in the world facing the best team in the world and losing to them.
Yeah, no, I agree. The second half's moment, I guess, was the penalty. Keira Walsh penalised for handling the ball in the box after it was chipped against her. It's a tough one to take. Ultimately, the ball hits your hand in the penalty box. There was a long chat for VAR. I didn't actually make a note of what time the incident happened, but it was certainly a good 5 minutes that sort of took the referee to speak with VAR, to go to VAR, to award the penalty, which ultimately was a poor penalty from Hermoso. Mary Earps, though, saved it. She's got a track record of saving penalties, and that'll probably be her highlight of the match. If I'm not sure she'll look back on it like that, but any save in a match for a goalkeeper is a good one.
Absolutely, and I don't think she needed to make a save when we beat Nigeria in that shootout because of their misses. So
yeah,
nice for her to get that moment, but I'm not sure it's a penalty. Does it strike her hand? Absolutely. Is her hand away from her body, and thus is it correct to say it wasn't going to touch her if her hand hadn't been there? Of course, that's also true. But it was point blank range. That's what I had a problem with it. I don't think it had travelled even a metre, maybe even half a metre off the player who earned the penalty to Keira Walsh before it hit her hand. If you can't do anything to take your hand away, it shouldn't be deemed punishable, and that was the language that the American referee used. There's been a punishable handball, so it's a penalty. How is that punishable? Is it a handball? Yes. Could she have done anything about it? Not for me.
I can't remember when this rule came in. Was it last year? Was it the season before, when basically if the ball hits your hand in the box, it's a penalty? But as you say, there's nothing you can do to really move your hand in that instance. I think 3-4 years ago, it wouldn't have been given. But now them's are the rules, I think, isn't it?
Absolutely. We're going to have to learn to live with it. But yeah, I have a suspicion. That when people are watching highlights of this World Cup final in 20-25 years' time, that there may be laughter at how that was given as a penalty, because I think we may have come up with a better way of punishing handball by then. We haven't got one yet, but I think we do need one.
Yeah, well, let's hope
I would be happy if the rule was deliberate only, and I would be hard to judge though, and I would be more happy if it was any time it ever touches your hand. At which point that would be a penalty, and you'd have some ridiculous penalties, but it would at least easily be detectable. Has it made contact with the hand, then it's handball. But while we've still got that doubt of has it travelled long enough, was the silhouette, was it going to hit the silhouette of your body anyway? While we've got that, we don't quite know where we stand. We need to know where we stand, I think.
Yeah. I don't want to come across as like sour grapes, as it were. But what do we make of the referee? I thought this was the same referee that we had in the for the semi-final against Australia. I thought on the whole, she had a relatively good game. But there was an instance with the Spanish player Paraluelo. Yeah. It's my Spanish twang's not there. But yeah, it was booked in the first half, I believe, and then kicked the ball away. in the second half, and was also the player that was involved with Alex Greenwood being caught by her sort of trailing knee. I don't really have an objection to that one because that's sort of it's just an in-game moment. I don't think there was any intent in that, but to kicking the ball away, much like handling the ball in the box, is a cardable offence.
Yeah, I think probably most onlookers who are of a Spanish persuasion would have agreed that they maybe fell on the fortunate side of the refereeing for the final. But yeah, as you've said yourself, it's a footnote really. England have lost the final for reasons other than that.
Sarina Wiegman, unfortunately, it's her second World Cup final defeat. It's quite a sort of strange bookends to her current situation, isn't it? Obviously, she lost as manager of the Netherlands to the USA in 2019, became the Lionesses manager, went on this unbelievable streak of games for it to only be ended at this present moment in time with another World Cup defeat. Must be heartbreaking for her.
Absolutely, but in so many ways she's made history. She's the first person to take two nations to World Cup finals in the men's or the women's game. I can't imagine, well, almost certainly, there's never been a manager before who's taken a team to 4 major tournament finals in a row. The last time there was a Euros or World Cup final that had no Sarina Wiegman managing the team in the final, that was the World Cup in 2015 in Canada. That's absolutely incredible. I mean, okay, she's lost at 2 World Cup finals and she's never won one, but that's absolutely gutting on a personal level. But there's no one who's taking that too much into consideration when on Judgment Day. I think she's comfortably the world's best manager for me.
And she's still in contract until, was it 2027? Or was it
2025?
2025, which will be the Euros in Switzerland by then. So hopefully we can go forward for there and defend that. At the moment, I don't believe that the next World Cup host has been announced for 2027. I think that's where I'm getting my years confused. It'd be great for her to still be in charge there, just to tick this box of winning a World Cup, wouldn't it?
It would indeed, but where does she stand if she stays on and she doesn't win it? But I think I think we can all agree that she'll almost certainly be at the European Championships in 2 years' time. She doesn't seem the sort of person who'd rip up a contract.
No.
And I also think, I was just saying this today actually, if you'd lost that final to the US or Brazil or someone, there's not much you can do about putting it right. But in 2 years' time, they may end up playing Spain again, and England can put that right. So I think her competitive nature, I could imagine that being a driver for continuing on.
Yeah, I get that. One thing that I did take note of just after the game, just before the presentation was made, Mary Earps went up, awarded the Golden Glove, I think they call it. But before that, or just after it, was Bonmati, player of the tournament. You called it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, but I still think it should have been Alex Greenwood. I could tell it was going to be Bonmati, especially if they won this final. But I think Alex Greenwood has been the best player of this tournament and deserved it. But you don't see the golden ball at a World Cup given to a player from a team who hasn't won it, unless it's 2014 and you give it to Lionel Messi rather than a German because it's Lionel Messi and it does well for the sponsorship deal. But I'm not sure there were too many people complaining that it got to Bonmati, who, if she doesn't win the Ballon d'Or this year, then I think someone has or the journalists who vote for it have made a grave error, because she, at the moment, for me, she's the best player in the world, and she has been, if not the best player at this tournament, then second only to Alex Greenwood.
As a journalist yourself, do you get a say in that?
Absolutely not. No, I think the Ballon d'Or is decided by one journalist from every from all of the top 100 nations.
Oh, I see.
So yes, it's a very exclusive club.
I wasn't aware of how that was was awarded. But just going back to the awards ceremony just before Spain picked up the trophy, it was a nice touch. I thought that the girls kept their medals on. Usually when you see a medal ceremony, an awards ceremony, as soon as the men go up on the losing side, the medals come off straight away. And I kind of think over time it's just become one of these things that you do out of habit, and they've seen other people do in the past. But I thought it was quite nice that they kept it on, despite, I'm sure, how frustrated they felt and disappointed.
Yeah, and frustrated maybe more than disappointed, because they just never got into the game. I'm not going to say that England barely touched the ball, but it didn't feel like they had long periods of possession. And when you're as good a team as the Lionesses are, that must have been incredibly frustrating.
I think we know Spain can keep hold of the ball, can't we? And that is probably where they've done the damage on us.
Yeah, I agree.
I think truth is we didn't see those big performances from the big players on the big occasion, mainly down to Spain just having that slight edge on us, unfortunately.
Yeah, sad times, but England have done themselves proud.
Absolutely. And so the next game for the Lionesses will be, I believe, the Nations League, which kicks off back in October, November time. The Women's Super League is probably about 6 weeks away. The women's game will continue, and I think this World Cup has just grown it even more. There's been so many highlights in a World Cup hosted by both New Zealand and Australia, despite it being around the other side of the world. The amount of people that have got into it, this may be their first real deep dive into women's football, but it's making big strides now.
Absolutely. Every World Cup and Euros at the moment is bigger than the last. It felt like the Euros last summer was a seismic moment where it was the biggest thing to talk about in football, not just in women's football, and the same was true here. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's only going one way, and quite right too.
Absolutely. So it wasn't to be. The Lionesses on the losing side in the World Cup finals. Dom, thank you very much for your time, not just today, but throughout the World Cup in chatting to us. Been really appreciated. I know you've been busy and will continue to be busy working for the Evening Standard and bringing us various reports from the Premier League. But I don't know if you've got any. Are you scheduled for the women's game?
I'm sure I'll be doing some of the Lionesses matches in the Nations League. Yeah, absolutely, and a fair amount of England men as well. But yeah, all while balancing the Premier League and all these other club competitions. So it's a very exciting life, but a life of juggling.
Great stuff. I love it. Well, let's speak again soon. Maybe we'll give the Lionesses a little break on the podcast here, but we'll be back. Maybe we can speak once that Nations League comes round again.
Absolutely, it'd be a pleasure to.
Many thanks to Dom there. As I've said throughout these episodes, you can find him on social media and, of course, in the Evening Standard, both online and in print. And I'm led to believe he's got a nice scoop coming up this week, so keep tabs on that, especially from a Lionesses perspective. Now, in the group stages, you may remember I was joined by England fan David Gorton. Now, he's flown back out to Australia for the final, and I'm delighted to say he has sent us this report.
Hi everyone, it's just after 11:30 in Sydney, and I've just got back from the World Cup final where England were beaten 1-0 by Spain at Stadium Australia. I have to be honest, better team won on the night, especially in the first half. We were largely second best. They were first of the ball, they kept possession better than we did. We had a couple of good chances early on. Mary Earps also pulled off a cracking save in the first 20 minutes. And unfortunately, a bit of a defensive lapse led to them getting the first and indeed only goal on the half-hour mark. Looked a bit leggy in the first half. Brought on Lauren James and Chloe Kelly in the second half, which gave us a bit more energy. We played better in the second half, certainly, but I still think that we still just didn't look like we were going to get back onto the game. Indeed, it could have been worse. Again, more credit to Mary Earps, deserved winner of the keeper of the tournament. Saved a penalty, not a greatly taken one, it has to be said, but you've still got to stop them. And then another save shortly after that. Our best chance was from Lauren James, unsurprisingly, who made the keeper pull off a save in the second half. I think it was just after the penalty save, to be perfectly honest. Normally a penalty sound like that can galvanise a team, but it didn't seem to work on this occasion. And so it's not to be. We've lost one under Serena in terms of a competitive game for the first time. But we've got a lot to be proud of in this tournament. We came out without three of our best players. We've got a lot further than most of us expected, including myself at the start of the tournament. I thought we'd struggle past the quarter-final stage with those absences, but no, we managed to get through. Yeah, we fell short on the day, but these things happen. You've got to just knuckle down and get back on with it and move on to the Nations League games coming up in the autumn, and then qualification for Switzerland in 2025. And let's see if we can retain the title that we won last year. And that is it from me in terms of the World Cup 2023. I'm flying back home tomorrow. Got a little trip out to the Sea Life Centre before I go, and then that is me back to work on Wednesday. All the best. Cheers.
Thank you to David there, putting it all into perspective for us all. What a couple of trips he's had. He has seen England play in a World Cup final. Safe journey back to you, David. And again, many thanks. So that's all from me for this episode, and indeed for the World Cup. What a World Cup it's been. I've really enjoyed it. Oh, so close. But it's the belief that keeps you going. And as England fans, we know all about that, don't you? Thank you so much for tuning in throughout. I'm going to take a little break now and head away with the family. I'll be back with you in September in time for the men's games against Ukraine and Scotland. And as always, I'll have a preview for that. So stay subscribed and you won't miss it. So until the next time, take care of yourselves. Cheers.